Yo, what's happening people, and welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to be showing you how I make dark UK drill beats from scratch. I'm going to break down how I made the melody, then I'll show you how I flipped it into a full beat. If you're new around here, then consider hitting the subscribe button and click the bell next to it too, so you can be notified every time I upload a new video. Now with all that said, let's jump into it. So when I'm making dark UK drill beats, I usually start with a piano, and that's what I did here. I went with this Schumler preset from Analog Lab. And to get a dark sound, you're going to want to pick a minor scale and focus on these half-step intervals within it. For this loop, I'm using a Dorian mode, but you can also get a dark sound from the natural minor, harmonic minor, and Phrygian modes. When I'm making drill beats, I like to keep the melodies quite simple because I feel like if you start adding too much, it will start to feel more melodic and less dark. So I'm literally just jumping from this G down to this F sharp, and that's just playing over the root for the whole thing. All I did then was take this E and transpose it down an octave and have it stretch over the whole 2 bars. Then for this second half, I've just copied it across and transposed it down by 5 semitones. For the effects on this, I've got half time and I've just got it set to half a bar. An EQ cutting out some of the lows and lower mid frequencies. RC20 with the trusty vinyl 3 preset, and as always I've turned the noise module off. And lastly, I've got a glue compressor just to squash it together a bit. Next I added another piano, but this time I went with the LA Custom Wash preset from Keyscape. All this is doing is copying the root notes of the chord progression, but just in the lower octaves. And the only thing I added to this was a low shelf at around 170 Hz. For my counter melody, I used a violin and I went for the Joshua Bell bank inside the Contact. Again, you'll see that I'm using these half-step intervals wherever I can, and that's just going to help achieve that dark sound easily. For the effects on this, I added Tape Mellowfy by Arturia, and I'm using a fat analog preset. I just like to turn this noise module down as well as the mechanics module. Then to control some of the resonant frequencies, I added Soothe 2. And the last thing I added to this melody was another violin, but this time I went with the Spitfire solo violin. This library is going to play different articulations depending on the length of the notes that you place down, so I've gone with these really short notes to get a nice stabby staccato sound. This pattern's just following the notes that are in the chord progression, and I've just got some of these passing notes to add a bit of variation. And literally all I've added to this is Valhalla Vintage Verb, and I've got the mix at about 18%. So next I just printed my MIDI out to audio and then pitched it up by 3 semitones, and now it sounds like this. For the hi-hats, I just went with a simple drill pattern and I just added these little occasional rolls. For the effects, I've got a velocity plugin that will randomize the velocities. I've got 2 auto filters that are doing automation. Got an EQ that's just boosting some of the higher mid frequencies. And lastly, I added some chorus. There's nothing really special about the snare, it's just a regular UK drill pattern, and I'm just alternating where I put these second hits. For the kick, I usually like to leave this first half quite empty, and then I'll add rolls and stutters at the end to keep it interesting. And all I've done to the kick is use the utility to make it mono. Next I got my perk and my open hi-hat, and these are just dotted around to fill any pockets of space that might be left. And all I got on these is Valhalla Vintage Verb with a mix dial around 8%. And lastly, I've got my 808. For this, I just like to place my root notes on the downbeats, and then I'll figure out where the slides are going to come into it after. And again, you'll see that I like to keep the first half of the pattern quite simple, and then the second half I'll add more slides. And then I just had to arrange the beat, and for this beat I wanted a 16 bar hook, a 16 bar verse, and then an 8 bar bridge or pre-hook. All you need to remember here is that you want your hook to have the most elements, and you want to drop a lot of these elements out for the verse. You can then start to bring these in towards the hook or the pre-hook. For this beat I've dropped most of the elements out of the pre-hook to create a nice build up for the hook. And now that I've structured out my hook, my verse and my pre-hook, I can just copy this across a couple of times. So that's going to bring us to the end of today's video. Let me know how you think the beat turned out in the comments. If you learned anything or if you enjoyed the video, then leave it a thumbs up before you leave. And if you're new around here, then consider hitting the subscribe button and click the bell next to it too, so you can be notified every time that I upload. As soon as I get to 500 subscribers, I'm going to be dropping a free loot pack as well, so keep your eyes out for that. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.